Hi, I'm Tiffany from HopeJoyInChrist.com, and I'm so excited you're in this bloggers community group. I want to talk a little bit today about some record keeping. So I found very early on that people would ask lots of questions I didn't know, I didn't always understand. They would say, what's your most popular post, or what kind of page views do you have at your site? And honestly, I began blogging because I enjoy the writing side of it. I love connecting in community, and I was not really keeping track of statistics. And so what I found is if I didn't know my statistics, I didn't know what strategies were working. And I was doing a whole lot of busy work and had no idea what of that busy work was actually helping, and what of it was a waste of time. So I began to keep track of some numbers, just some very basic numbers. And today I want to walk you through how to do that. I do it once a month. It takes 10 or 15 minutes. Initially, I was just writing them down on the last day in a planner, so like this, and kind of had a cheat sheet there of what numbers I was getting, so I didn't forget a number, although I did the first few months last year kind of forget what I was grabbing. But now I keep it in a spreadsheet, and I will gladly share that sheet with anyone who is interested. It's just really simple. I just plug them in, and it lets me look at the numbers side by side, which is fine if you are thinking about setting goals and trying to increase your reach on a particular platform, so you can look and see where you were and where you are and where you want to be. Okay, so I'm going to tell you that we are going to look at social media. We're going to look at followers on Instagram, followers on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. If you do, it's important to look at, the numbers there. It's also good to look at the insights there. Facebook especially tells you how engaged your audience is, so you know if you're posting the right kind of content that really reaches them, or if you need to change up your strategy a little bit. Then we're going to look at Twitter. We're going to look at Pinterest. On Pinterest, we're going to kind of rest there for a little bit. We're going to look at Pinterest followers, Pinterest page views, and then we're going to go over into our analytics and just see which pins are being repinned or shared or clicked through and saved the most. And we're going to kind of give them another spin in the cycle, which helps increase our reach. And we're going to wrap it all up looking at Google Analytics. Okay, now I don't camp there, I don't stay there a whole lot, but I do go in to look at how many page views, how many unique users, and what my bounce rate is, and then to look at what are the top performing pieces on my site, and where is that traffic coming from. So we probably will break this up into two pieces and tackle Google in a separate piece, just because it can be very confusing. There's so many pieces of analytics within Google. Google is very good at keeping statistics, but if you're not really a statistic person, if you get lost in all of the different words, audience and acquisition and behavior and conversion, like it can just feel like, oh, and so I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to do this once a month, to go in and grab your stats, just to know, you know what I mean? Just knowing about it let me know very strategically that I don't need to spend very much time on Instagram, because there's not a lot going on there. There's not a lot of traffic coming back my way. Twitter, not really important for my niche, for what I do. I don't need to, spend hours a day in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening going and retweeting things. That my traffic mostly comes from Pinterest. Overwhelmingly Pinterest, and then Facebook when we're looking at social referrals back to my site. And so I need to focus there, but I can do that strategically if I know where my traffic's coming from. So that having been said, I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to grab some numbers. Okay, so let's start. Oh, and I didn't tell you email, but we are going to go into our email and look at some things. Okay, now I switched to MailerLite at the beginning of this year and really have loved it. I know that they have some wonky things happening here or there, but every stinking email service does. It's just, a part of being in the technology world, they're going to have some glitches. So it's just life. We're not gonna fault them for that. Unless they lose our list, then we'll freak out. Okay, so in MailerLite on the dashboard, it tells you how many subscribers you have. So I'm just going to jot that number down, subscribers. It's going to tell you how many new subscribers, how many new you had last month. And so my numbers this month are going to look off. I'm just going to say I took the month off and did absolutely no hustle. So everything has dropped. And I'm like, oh, this is the month to share, whatever. It's a humbling moment. But we're going to look down here a little bit further. It shows how your subscribers have grown, which is really cool. I love just that at a glance. And then right here is where we're going to focus for just a second, okay? We want to see the open rate, and that means of all the emails that I sent this month, a big 3, woo, how many of them were opened, okay? And I just want that percentage. So this month, there was a 20.5% open rate. And then the click-through rate tells us once they opened it, did they click through any of the links that I shared in the email? Okay, and so we want that. I've been working very intentionally to increase that open rate. And of course, that can be for a different email, but it kind of fluctuates between usually a high 3 and a 5%, which is pretty good for any faith niche from all of the research I've done. But initially it was 1%, 2%, and so I'm kind of purging or pruning my list and getting it to go, more the people who want to be there because they care about what I'm sharing. And so, all right, from here, that's it. That's all I'm grabbing. Next, we're going to grab some social media numbers. So on Twitter, as you go into your Twitter, just right there, how many followers? That's all I want to know. I have 2,056 followers, and I'm out of view. Instagram, you have to go over to the page you're at. So the followers there, 1284. All right, beautiful. And if I had an Instagram page, like a professional page instead of a personal page, it would give some statistics here as well. But because Instagram really doesn't send a lot of traffic my way, I use it because it has some really cool filters for sharing, and I can snap a picture on my Instagram and share it to Facebook with that cool filter. So I don't know, not that I focus here, but that's kind of the strategy. All right, now Facebook on your page, if you have a business page, and there's a lot of debate about that, if it's important to have a business page, not important, that's really for you, to find out and see. But what we want to do is go to our insights. And in the insights, it's going to tell you, it's going to tell you all kinds of things. Okay, so what do I want here? I want to see the page summary for the month. All right. Maybe I do. All right, so it's going to show you how many new followers you had, what your reach is. So even though you have, I think I have 480 followers, it tells me over here. Let's go there real quick because that's the number I actually want. I'm sorry. I'm going to click around for just a second. So so as of today, I have 482 followers. All right, go back to the insights. Okay, so 482 followers, and yet the reach, and look, it just changed again. All right, so the reach is almost 2,000 people have been reached. And so Facebook decides who sees what, and they will share your page with people outside of your followers. Also, your followers who sometimes will share things that helps increase your reach. And so you just kind of keep up with that. So I keep up with the number of followers and the reach, just, curiosity for me there. Okay, now I also manage a Facebook page. And so in the page, you can also go to Insights. All right, now it tells you the total members, and you can look and see the increase there and it's kind of dropped off. Like I said, I have not been here, so everything's been scheduled. Not a lot of interaction within the group, and so where I have been pretty consistently growing this Facebook page, this month it just took a hit, and I'm okay with that because I needed a break. So it tells you how many new members you had. It lets you know of the posts that were there, you know, how much engagement was there. Is it down? Is it up? And that's it. That's all that I look at there. All right. We are going to, for the rest of our time, camp out in Pinterest. Do you know what? Let's go to Google Analytics just for a second, and we'll come back to Pinterest, okay? So on Google Analytics, let's just go home and let this page refresh. All right, so Google Analytics, as you log into it, and I highly suggest that you install it. Even if you are thinking, okay, I use Jetpack to keep up with things on my WordPress site, Google Analytics digs down really deep, and when you are ready to do this amazing thing we all hear about, monetize your site, Google Analytics is going to tell you what kind of interests your readers have outside of what you're writing about. So if you have a lifestyle blog, if you have a very specific faith niche, which I do, speaking to faith as it applies to wives and moms, well, you know what? There's not a lot I can really sell them specifically in that niche. So I need to know what they're interested in to kind of branch out occasionally from my main topics to help bring an income in and support the ministry that God's called me to. So Google Analytics really helps you get to know your reader. Okay, now the first thing we're going to see, I'm going to ignore this piece here, the audience overview, for a minute. We'll go to that more in detail. I want you to scroll down on your main page, okay, and here's where you can focus if you're thinking, I'd really like to monetize, or I'd really like to grow my email list. And I have, you know, I don't know, 50 posts, and it's hard to go back and put an opt-in in each and every one of those posts. That's time consuming. Well, why not pull your top 10? Oh, you don't know your top 10. Hey, thank you, Google. Google was going to give you your top 10 posts. Right here, what pages do your users visit? Okay, it tells you how many people are hitting up these top posts on your site. Now, it also can help you know what you need to write a follow-up piece on, because they are very interested in this topic, or this topic is bringing in the most people, whereas, you know, that topic you wrote about that you're so passionate about and you loved, it got crickets, right? Can you feel what I'm saying? It's important to know that this site, it's not really about me. It's about my reader. And so if this is what is bringing my reader, this must be what they need help with. And so we can write about that. So I would highly suggest, if you don't know or you don't really strategize to make the most out of your top posts, that you go and look here and see what are your top 10, jot them down, go back through, make sure you've optimized those things, make sure you've got lots of keywords and you're really plugging in SEO principles, best practices. Make sure that you've got an opt-in in there pretty close to the top, so as they come in, they know how to connect with you. Make sure that you have put in some affiliate links somewhere in there, whether it's linking back to a resource on Amazon, or if you're an affiliate for another blogger, another smaller piece, because typically their percentage of payout is much higher. So Amazon, I think my Amazon income so far this year has been like $20. However, my affiliate income has been close to $1,000. And so it's just a higher payout, a higher return on your investment. So this is where you can go just to say, hey, what's my next step? Go get those things ready. Make sure they can join your email list, because you're amazing and they do want to keep up with you, but they might not know how. Okay, so make sure you've got an opt-in, something for free you're giving them. Make sure that you have put in some affiliate links. All right, so that is that. In Google, just really quick, we're going to go to our, let's see, I believe it's an audience overview. Okay, in our audience overview, it will pull up a month view, and if it doesn't pull up the whole month, you can click right here in your date range in this kind of top right hand corner, and you can tell it you want a month. You just click on the dates to and from and go run with it. Okay, now here it's going to tell us our users, our number of users, how many of them were new, how many sessions. All right, we want the page views and we want the users. All right, so 14, 10, I'm sorry, 11. And we want to know our bounce rate. So the bounce rate is talking about how quickly did they come into your site and say, oh, either this is for me and I'm going to hang out here for a minute, or this is not what I thought it was. I need to go back and look again. Okay, and so this is an important piece to know if you are hoping to work with a brand, or you're looking for sponsors on your site, or you want to work with a bigger piece. This piece here helps them know, whether there's value in working with you. So just keep track of it, and we want to keep lowering this bounce rate to make sure that people are staying on our page longer and longer. Okay, so we'll come back to Google Analytics in another piece. I just want to hang out in Pinterest for a minute. Okay, now on Pinterest, we want to know how many followers we have. We want to keep up with that number. And so we're going to click right there on followers and just jot that number down. Okay, and we also want to get an idea of how many monthly page views we have. All right, and so the same with Facebook. Pinterest decides who is going to see your content, and it pushes that content to people whether they're following you or not. Okay, now your followers, they're going to see your content. It's going to be, like 5 posts, excuse me, 5 posts throughout the day at different intervals. So they say, as you're making your pin strategy, if you pin a lot of content, your own content and others' content, make sure that the first 5 are your pins. And so that is just a good rule of thumb. But the Pinterest, so the monthly page views have to do with if you're an influencer, if you are a high volume pinner, if you're pinning rich pins, and then how interested people are in the pins, if they're saving them, if they're clicking through them. And so, all right, so you're going to put down those 2 numbers, the number of followers and then the monthly page views. Okay, we're just going to keep track of it and see if it's growing. There's not, I don't know, like a magical number. I will say like 5,000 followers is going to get you into some group boards that are pretty amazing. And so that's kind of my goal at the moment, to get to 5,000 by the end of the year. But at the moment, what we want to focus on is it growing? Is your platform growing? Are you doing the right things to keep it growing? Or have you done something that's made it kind of drop in the numbers? For example, taking a month off. So I was really close to 1 million, and 1 month off has dropped my monthly page views by half. And that is a little heartbreaking, but I'm just going to go with it because I really needed that time off. Okay, so we want to look at our analytics here for a minute, okay, before we're done. Okay, so up here in your top left corner, you're going to go to Analytics. All right, and let's go to Overview and just kind of check this spot out for a second. All right, now your analytics are going to tell you your top pins. And if these pins are not your pins, that means it means something. So maybe your readers are interested in other things more than they're interested in what you're doing. So you just want to think about that and let that, be. Is that top pin that popped in there that's not yours? Is it something you can write to? Is it something that is a message in your heart and you just haven't gotten to it? Maybe that is a good idea for your next post. Just let these things kind of sink in and think about what you need to be doing to reach the people that God's put you here to reach, because it's important, okay? So the top pins, while we're here, and I do this at least once a week, honestly, but at least this time once a month, I go in and repin these pins because they are my top pins. I'm just going to open it in a new tab. Now I pin it to my own boards so I don't get dinged as a spammer and I don't break any rule policies in other group boards. So I'm just going to pop those open and I'm going to repin them when we're finished here. All right, let's look over at your Pinterest profile just to see more. So I like to do at least the top 10. All right, so this is not going to give us the date range we want, so I want to see the whole month. All right, here we are. All right, so it's going to show me these top 5, but I want to go down 10. Now the top 5 are really the best, but there's still, you know, some value I feel like in grabbing the rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, I'm going to grab the top 10. And all of the things here it's telling you impressions are the people that showed these pins to. Then you see how many of them clicked through or how many of them saved it for later. Okay, which happens a lot, right? We're scrolling through, that looks interesting, but it's not really what I'm looking for right this second. So I'm going to save it for later and come back to it. All right, it's also going to show you the boards with the top impressions. Okay. Now these are usually my own boards, but when a board pops in that's not my own board, I make sure that I am a member of that board. It happens sometimes that I'm not, and then I just ask to join that group board. I also go back and pin a couple of things from it. So Christian bloggers, and it put it over here. So I'm just going to go look at this board and see. I'm in a lot of group boards and I don't always remember. So I'm going to look for myself here. Maybe I am. All right, and it doesn't show me in it, so I'm probably not in this board. I'm just going to look, just curious. Do you ever just get curious? We're going to look and see. Right, so I'm not in this board, but it's a board where someone somewhere in the world shared my pin, and it did so well in this board that it reached my top impressions. So what I would do then is find out who is the owner of this group board and ask if they would join me, because if they liked some of my pins, they probably would like others of my pins. And it's a good way to increase your reach. Okay, so there's that. So I go through and repin, all right? I repin the top pins, then I go back over to the analytics, okay, and I look to see, so these are the top pins across all your boards, including things that are yours and other things that you pin that are not yours. All right, I also want to look at activity from my site, which is right here, this far box on the right side. And I am going to look at the statistics on that for the last month. And of course it's declining, but usually it's increasing. If it's decreasing, it means for the most part that I'm not pinning strategically enough for my own site, which would be the case this month. Absolutely, I have not been. And so we're just going to look at that. So we're going to look at the top 5 or 10 pins. Okay, now for me, it's basically my top 10 from Google. They translate over here, but not exactly. So like my top in Google is this uncomfortable truth about sex, and my second is how to fast and pray. But if you look on my Pinterest, the how to fast and pray pops up over and over and over and over again. So this is a topic that really has hit well with my readers. And so it's something that I am considering turning into a product. It's something I'm considering branching out and talking more about, because it's something that really hit a need that's not being met in other places. So it just helps you get an idea what's doing well, what can you continue doing. And I'm going to take my top clicks, my top clicked through, which means it translated from being something really good on Pinterest to being really good for my website, okay, which is kind of my goal, all right, and I can go over here and look at the 5 clicks, and I'm going to repin them. So these are the top clicks this month. And so I'm going to repin the top 10. Now the top 10 look like the same button, I'm sorry, the same image, but every time someone new pins your pin, it creates a new pin, and Pinterest keeps track of it as a unique thing, which is fun. It's absolutely amazing. The more pins you have leading back to the same article means more traffic coming back to that article. So I'm just going to open those up. I'm going to repin them to my personal boards, not my group boards, personal boards, okay? And so that is how I keep track of how things are doing, what strategies are working, what's growing, what's not growing, what's growing at the rate I was hoping it would grow, and where do I need to spend more time. Okay, and when we know that, we start to see a pattern in it, it helps us better steward this online resource, better help our readers, better connect with them, provide better content for them. And that really is what the goal is, isn't it? We want to bless them and help them and grow them. We also want to know how we can bless our ministry, by monetizing and making the most out of that. And keeping track of your statistics after a few months, you'll see the pattern. What's working well? What's not working well? What do I need to spend time tweaking and improving? Okay, so I want to challenge you. Take some time. Today is the last day of the month. You could also do it on the first day of the month. Or randomly, if you're just going to pick another day in the month that works for you, just try to be consistent to do it on that day. And let me know if this was helpful or valuable, if you had questions, something I kind of touched on, but you were like, whoa, I don't know how you did that. Just drop those in the comments and let me know. And I will talk to you later. Bye.